Hello friends, welcome. Friends, if you recall, just yesterday I did a video on explaining some technological absorption Airtel has done based on their annual report. And in the same video, I said that I am going to go through the annual report and understand if there are certain financial implications which needs to be understood, which is not part of their quarterly statement. Now, friends, as I was going through this report, interestingly, I found this AGR matter. Now, AGR matter, what is this? Because we all know what Airtel is supposed to pay, what Vodafone is supposed to pay, and what others will pay as far as AGR dues are concerned. There was a Supreme Court judgment, and if you look at the judgment, the matter was clearly settled. And we knew that Bharti group was supposed to pay 43,980 crores, right? Based on this, I had done an article also. And if you look at that article, I had clearly demarcated the principal, interest, and principal on interest and penalties. And all these are clearly stipulated in this article. I am going to paste the link of this article in the description. Now, friends, this is not what I'm going to discuss. This is going to be something very interesting and very significant. Now, if you look at the annual report, the latest annual report, you will find this number 352108 does not match with my calculation. What was the calculation I did here? The latest calculation says that the numbers for Bharti, outstanding Bharti's due would be 38,185. Now, if you look at the Bharti's debt statement in the annual report, if you go and look at the debt, and I would not like to go right now because there will be too many, if I keep on shuffling pages, you will get completely confused. Now, if you go to the debts, let me do that. Why should you leave that? Let's go and look at the debt. So if you look at the debt part, and if you add all these line items, these will add up to 38,000 crores. Now, if these are basically part of repayment for borrowings. This is the table for repayment for borrowings, which has spectrum as well as which has the AGR liabilities also. And these are for 6 installment. And if you add everything, it comes out with 30,000 crores. So if it adds up to 38,000 crores, then what is this item? Which is the AGR matter, which is listed down below in this page. And this closing balance is 35,211 crores. So what is this item? And not only that, why the provision, the net addition increased significantly from only 2,523 crores to 7,516 crores. Is there some new liability? What are going to be the implication of Bharti? And what are going to be the implication on Vodafone? This is, friends, that we are going to discuss in this video, and you will find this video pretty interesting because this is a very complicated video and a lot of hard work is required to go through this and understand what is going on. So in order to structure my thoughts, I have created a slide deck and I am going to take you through the slide deck. The question that we are going to answer is why Airtel provision spike. Provision is the AGR matter table. And I'm going to explain to you what this AGR matter table is all about and how it is different from the table which kind of gives the repayment borrowings, which is debt, how it is different. So let's go and understand. So we have to understand the provision, contingency liabilities and AGR exposure. So what are the implications on Bharti? We will understand that and we will quantify the implication. So AGR obligation, big picture. It is very simple. We know that is around 38,000 crore by looking at the debt payment obligation. But is there anything new? Something more which Bharti has to pay? How much it is? We are going to quantify that. So AGR we know it is adjusted gross revenue due as per Supreme Court ruling. It has got two components of Airtel exposure. This is important to understand. One is debt, which is 38,604 crore, which I already showed you, which is SC approved. Payment schedule is clearly defined by a Supreme Court, which they have already indicated in their annual report table. And then there is a provision of 35,211 crores, which is future probable liabilities. This is important. Future probable liabilities. Now, this is a matter which many people may not know. What are these? So to total combined exposure is 73,815 crores. Now, don't get scared because Airtel may not have to pay 73,815 crores, the full amount of the provision. How much they will have to pay is what we are going to discuss in this video, and why the provision increased significantly by 7,500 crores. We also are going to discuss. So what are provisions? Provisions are obligation is probable and measurable booked in balance sheet. This is important to understand between provision and contingency liability, because we are going to discuss contingency liabilities also, and how certain amount has been moved from contingency liability into the AGR bucket, which has increased the provision by 7,500 to 7,500 crores. So what is contingency liability? It is an obligation possible but not probable, disclosed only in notes only. So it is not part of the balance sheet. Shift from contingency to provision means Airtel expects a probable payout. So if there is something in contingency which has been moved to provision, means now it is more probable that Airtel has to pay. So this is the difference between contingency and provision and contingency liability. So let's look at Airtel's provision trend. Now, rather than looking into the text here, I'm going to take you through the table. So look at the provision. So where is the provision? This is the AGR matter, which will give you the provision. So the closing balance is what you should be focusing on. So these are the provision. This is the line which you should be focusing on. It was 23,829 crores. Then it in FY22, then increased to 25,202 crores, then 27,725 crores, and now it is 35,211 crores, and increased and an increase of 7,516 crores, which is substantially more than you see from the earlier years, right? Now, out of this, these closing balance, what is TTS? Because if you look at the AGR matter table, if you go down below, Airtel will always give you a notes under which, and it is going to talk about TTSL and Telenor merger. You see, TTSL and TTML merger and Telenor merger. Those numbers are given here in a text form, which I have converted into a table. So what does it mean? So let me explain this a little bit more in depth. Otherwise, you will get confused. So let's go to the Supreme Court judgment. Now, in Supreme Court judgment, you will see that this table, which was the preliminary assessment table, has two items under Bharti group. If you see, it has been added under Bharti group, which is including Telenor. But Telenor has not been quantified separately. So we don't know what Telenor item number is. But it has been shown as one single group here. Then we have one more item of Tata Companies group, which is 16,798 crores. Now, this has not been shown as the obligation for Bharti group to pay. Now, what happened? Bharti merged with Tata group, and therefore this became an obligation for them to pay. So there are two different obligations which Bharti has contested, and therefore they had put in provision, though they have to pay, but that payment is not due because the court cases are on. But the good news is that these two provisions are indemnified by those two companies. So if this become payable, then Tata group will pay this and Telenor group will pay this. But why then there is a worry? Because if they will pay, then what is the problem? Problem is here in this table, friends. So if you look at Telenor, the TTSL, TTML row is this. Telenor, I have quantified based on one annual report where the number can be clearly extracted. So I put it here. And there is a rest which is not indemnified, because these two items are indemnified, right? They will pay. But this item is not indemnified, and this has now standing at 12,832 crores. And this has exploded from 7,052 crores because of this shift from contingency to the AGR table here. So this table which you see, which has blown from 2,523 crores to 7,562 crores on account of shift from contingency liabilities. Now here comes very interesting. I'm going to show you from where this matter has got shifted to this bucket and why this amount has now exploded to 12,000. Sorry friends, let me just take this away. Just a minute. Yeah. So how this has increased from 7,000 52 crores, which is not which is not under indemnification, to 12,832 crores, which Airtel has to pay, right? Which we are going to discuss. So how do I? So let's go to contingency. Contingency. So let me type here contingency. Let me just add contingency. Okay, so contingency. Okay, so contingent liability. So this is what I'm going to copy and I am going to put here. But anyway, I think we are already in that page. So here, so you look at, this is the notes which are under notes, contingency liability, and you will notice that there are various items. One item is DOT and other regulatory demand. Here, there is an item which says additional demand received for period already covered by the AGR judgment, which is mainly pertaining to spectrum usage charge. Now, this amount has been going on since FY22. So, if you look at FY22, look at this. Same table, notes to considered financial statement. Here, you will see that there has been an increase in DOT's contingency liability on account of, you see, increase in DOT demand on account of additional demand received for the period already covered by the AGR judgment, which is mainly pertaining to spectrum usage charge. And from here, we can quantify what was that amount. How do I quantify? Because if you go to the table here, where this number has been given here, I'll tell you which table to look at. This table is, no, not here. I think it is down below. So let's go down below the table. Where is the table? Oh my God, this is a problem. I'll pause the video. I'll get back to the table. Just a minute. Yeah, so you look at this table. DOT demands. This is the contingency liability table. Claim against company not acknowledged as debt. DOT demand. So what was in FY21? It was 5,542 crores, right? Contingency liability, which increased to 10,048 crores. On account of what? On account of this item, right? So you understand now there was a 4,500 crore increase, and this is what I have captured in this DOT's contingency liability table. You see, in FY21, this number was 5,543 crores. In FY22, its number was 10,048 crores, then 11,230 crores, then 13,361 crores, then suddenly went down from 13,000 to 9,139 crores. So there is a drop of 4,221 crores, and that went into the table called AGR matter. So if I type here AGR matter, so let's go to AGR matter, AGR matter. So you will see that this AGR matter closing balance, which was 27,752 crores, 25 crores, increased to 35,210 crores on account of this increase from 2,523 crores to 7,516 crores, right? And which I have captured in this table. So if you look at this table here, AGR matter, DOT's contingency, you can clearly see that this amount went up, went down, and AGR thing increased from here. The closing balance from 27,725 crores to 35,211 crores, right? So this is the summary of the provision trend. So there has been an increase of 11,382 crores from FY22 to FY25, right, on provision trend. And this amount, some 4,500 crores, on account of shifting from contingency to provision, right? So there is a biggest jump, which we already saw, indicates that the material change in Airtel, or maybe Airtel is losing that DOT's case of additional demand on top of the Supreme Court judgment on account of SUC, right? Now, breakdown on provision. We have already seen that in this Excel sheet, breakdown on provision here. So this is TTSL, TTML, right? This row, and this is Telenor, and this is rest. And then if you add all these three, these are the amount, the closing balance, which currently stands at 35,211 crores, right? So here, so let's go to why did it spike in FY25 spike? Why did it spike? DOT raised additional SUC charges or for past period, which we saw in FY22 annual report. This report, FY22 annual report. See, increase in DOT demand on contingency on account of additional demand received for period already covered in the AGR judgment, which may pertain to spectrum usage charge. And this I showed you here. You see here, this amount, this number, which was 5,000 something, we increased to 10,000, right? So that is that. So initially it was treated as contingency, the spectrum usage charge, which was additional on top of the Supreme Court judgment. Now it has been moved to provision. Signals Airtel expects an adverse outcome or settlement with DOT, right? Contingency liability trend, which we have already seen. There is no need to repeat that. Now, AGR debt versus provision. Debt is 38,604 crores as of 31st March 2025. Which is a part of the SC approved schedule. Provision is 35,211 crores, right? Probable but not yet enforced. And the combined AGR risk is so much, out of which a significant part has been covered by indemnified by Telenor and Tata. How much it is? If I add this, it is 22,379 crores, right? So, because it has been provisioned, what is the risk now on Airtel? Risk means how much Airtel has to pay, which is 12,832 crores, which is on top of the existing debt of 38,605 crores. So if you add this now, if I take this here, if I go here and I take this, and if I add this, this is equal to this plus this. So the total payment on AGR debt for Airtel is 51,437 crores. You got it now? Now let's go to implications for Vodafone Idea. Now, SUC demand logic applies to industry-wide. Vodafone Idea is likely to be exposed. The question is, has Vodafone moved similar amount from contingency to provision? If not, future financial shock is possible. Right? Now, the point is, which we have to answer is that since we do not have the Vodafone's annual report of FY25, I went to Vodafone's annual report, which is of FY24. Now, in FY24, there is a clear mention in the contingency notes that additional demands toward AGR for which the company has written to DOT requesting for correction of certain computation error, admissible pass-through not considered. So there is an amount, and this amount is part of 9,780 crores. Now, what is this amount? For Airtel, we know it is around 4,500 crores or something, right? What is this amount for Vodafone Idea? We don't know. It may be 4,500 crores because this breakup is not given, right? So there is an impact on Vodafone Idea. It can be 2,000 crores, even 3,000 crores. I don't know, right? But that item exists clearly in the balance sheet. So we will come to know once Vodafone's latest annual report is released, right, for FY25. So the key takeaways is FY25 spike. Airtel prepares for SUC liability beyond AGR dues, which is the total is 51,437 crores, which is an addition of 12,832 crores, and the current debt is 38,605 crores as of FY25, end of FY25, right? So the indemnity covers TTSL and Telenor, but this is the amount which is the rest on top of the 38,000 crores debt. AGR litigation is still open, possible I don't know whether it will be anything, except for Vodafone Idea, there will be an additional amount apart from the amount which I had calculated in my article. If you look at the article, Vodafone Idea, the amount was this much, right? The Vodafone Idea initial amount was this much, and then so the current amount is this much. So there was an annual installment of 16,000, 16 or 17, 18. This number may be a little bit different here. So if there is an additional amount of 2,000 or 3,000 crores, this amount, whatever is the AGR data of Vodafone Idea, this may be 74,000, 76,000, I don't know exactly what the number is, this will get enhanced slightly. That's all I wanted to say, friends, in this video. That's all, that is the most important part, was the Airtel's additional liability of 12,832 crores, right? And what is Vodafone's Idea liability? We don't know. We need to find out. So that's all, friends, in this video. Thanks for listening till the end, and I'll come back with a new video on a new topic next time.